Hello, my loves. Let me just make sure I am broadcasting in all of the places while I give you guys some time to hop on. We'll get started in just a few moments. Okay, we got that one dialed in. Hello, loves. Hello, hello. We're going to be talking about quantum embodiment and quantum jumping today. So if you've had questions about that topic in general, or parts work, so we're going to talk about that a little bit too, feel free to drop that in the questions. And for those of you who are on Facebook or YouTube Live, if you're catching the replay, feel free to ask your questions. If it's something I can answer easily in the comments, I definitely will do so. Perfect. All right. Hello. Hi, everybody. How's everybody doing? How's everybody feeling? Let's put the comments on so I can see what they are. There we go. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I am so excited. I am so excited about this. So SoulVation, I'm going to be talking about, just so we're clear, I am relaunching SoulVation. This is a live program. I ran this live last year. Hands down, had the most transformational experiences. It was crazy. The girls that were in SoulVation, like life-changing things happened to them. And so that is open for enrollment. We have a 48-hour fast action bonus. That means that if you purchase, whether it's payment plan or in full, if you join in the next 48 hours, you will get 2 90-minute sessions, private sessions with me. Each of those are $333 value. So that's $666 in free sessions just for choosing to take the fast action and do it early. But for today, what we're going to do is talk about the themes of this program. And so I'm going to open up to questions for people who are curious about quantum jumping, quantum embodiment and what that means, and parts work. Because here's the thing. Parts work is something that took my shadow work, my personal development work, my self-awareness work to the next level. And I have worked with a lot of people with parts work. I have tried different modalities that in parts work. Internal family services completely did not work for me. In fact, it made me feel, and I have worked with many clients who did the internal family systems program for integrating parts of themselves. Honestly, hi Ward, it really showed me how that modality can keep you stuck in the program. It can keep you stuck in the patterns. It did not work for me. And when things don't work for me, I say, well, we're going to have to figure out a way that does. And usually spirit starts to download things in me. That's how the purification process was born. And this is how quantum embodiment technique was born, known as QET. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about all of those things today. So a lot of people are new to parts work. A lot of people don't understand quantum embodiment or even what embodiment means. A lot of people don't understand quantum jumping. So if you have questions about these topics in general, please ask them. I'm going to answer them as best I can. Like my palm trees. So anyway, we're not going to entertain that. Why is parts work important? Let's start there. 90% of your healing journey, when you go on a healing journey, whether it's through your spiritual awakening or because you have decided that you want to heal the programs and beliefs and patterns that were installed in you as a child, 90% of your healing work is self-awareness. It's self-awareness. It's becoming aware of yourself. I mean, honestly, that's what a spiritual awakening is anyway. It's becoming more aware of self. And that's why it's not a one-time event, right? The other 10%, which is the most challenging part, is self-discipline. It's self-discipline and your ability to hold space, communicate, integrate that part of yourself back into the whole. I'm sure you guys have heard of things as like ego deaths, right? When we have an ego death, what's happening is there is an aspect of self, a part of ourself, that is wanting to integrate back into the whole. So I always say when the pain of a trauma or a situation, relationship ending, grief, whatever the pain is, whatever thing is ailing you in this moment of life, the stronger the pain, that the closer that energy, that wound is at the door of your heart. It's literally at the door of your heart, banging on the door saying, are you going to let me in? Are you going to accept me as I am? Angry, sad, in fear, whatever it is. It's wanting you to feel it, see it, and hear it, right? And if those of you who have been following me for quite some time know that the purification process, right, is something that I talk about a lot. I have literally given that modality away for free. I have told you guys how to do it, right? I see you. These are the frequencies. I see you. I hear you. You are safe. I love you anyway. It's tattooed on my arm. This is the process, right, of healing in general and integrating parts of ourselves. And we're all are going to go through ego deaths. We all have inner children, versions of ourselves that got stuck at a certain age that keep calling in this different people, different places, different things, different circumstances that hold the same energy. So let me give you guys an example. So one of my core wounds is abandonment. I was abandoned as a child at the age of 3. And then my father would go on to emotionally abandon me in my teenage years. What this taught me was to abandon myself. It taught me self-abandonment because I was constantly abandoned. So I thought, oh, this is just how we operate. So I became ingrained in this program to continue the abandonment as an adult. So that program was started by me witnessing my parents abandoning me, right, and not fulfilling those needs. That became a program. So as I started to be more on my own, I would then take that on myself. So I would continue that abandonment. And if I wasn't, or in addition to that, I would call in relationships who would abandon me, right? Who would not be there emotionally, who would not meet my needs physically, who was very avoidant, right? So these patterns continue. But once I stopped abandoning myself and I started to see, hear, and feel the pain that version of me experienced as a child, I began to have a series of ego deaths. And they were quite uncomfortable. And I was able to move out of the fear of being abandoned. Because here's the thing. Whatever happened to you as a child, there's a good chance you either don't remember it. Good afternoon, Sherry. You either don't remember it, right? Or you've repressed it and it gets stuck in the body. It gets stuck in the body. And so whether we realize it consciously or not, we continuously call in, again, people, places, and things with different set of circumstances, but the same exact energy. And the reason why is because our inner children are hell-bent on bringing the things that happened to us as a child into reconciliation. This can fix money wounds. This can fix relationship wounds. This can fix self-abandonment wounds. It can fix trust issues. All of this comes from our ability to recognize and be so self-aware that we become aware of, oh my God, I'm in the middle of a pattern right now. I've called in another set of circumstances with the same energy. Here I am triggered. The pain is unreal. The anxiety is unreal. I am coming out of my skin. I don't want to feel this. And in that moment, if you can shift it all and say, instead, I'm just going to feel all of this and go move through that purification process. See it, hear the story, feel the energy. You heal that thing that happened to you as a child in the now moment. You healed that thing that happened to you in a past life in the now moment. This is why I'm a huge proponent of, it's fun to play in our past lives. And if you go to a reader and there's a life that comes up, there's usually a cross between, right? Because we are simultaneously in all these other realities, all at the same time. All our past lives are happening all at the same time. And so some lives are more prevalent to this one because we're helping each other. It's like we're networked across all these timelines. I feel like I'm moving through what you speak of. Cool, Monique. Ask any question you have. So it's like we're networking, right? So I had a lot of past lives where I had throat issues, right? Where I was either decapitated, burned at the stakes. I have a photo of this too, you guys. This is a cool story. Shoot, I don't even know when this was. 2017, 18, somewhere around there. I was sitting in bed with my then husband, and he watched as these burns developed on the side of my neck. They just came out of nowhere. They just showed up. And for 3 weeks, I walked around with burns on my neck. I didn't change any food, didn't change anything. We checked all the normal stuff. He just literally watched as these burns showed up. Why? Because I was in the process of healing a life where I was burned at the stakes. I've healed a life where I was decapitated in the UK. All kinds of things. So that's why I'm always weird about my neck. I don't like to have turtlenecks. I don't like anybody touching my neck, right? So I was able to heal that here, which helped heal it there. So past lives are not, you don't necessarily need to go to a past life to heal something that's bothering you here. Everything can be healed in the now moment. So whether it's a trauma, an inner child wound, something from a marriage, a past life, whatever it may be, it's all capable of being healed in the now moment. And that's why I say 90% of healing is self-awareness. 90% is self-awareness. Sherry says, in inner child work, my body is manifesting sickness. Your body isn't manifesting sickness because of the shadow work. It's manifesting sickness because you're not listening to your body. You have trauma in your body. So and I know this because this is a lot of what I went through. I got so sick because I was not listening. I was not listening to what was coming up for me. Thank you for sharing, Amanda. I appreciate that. I wasn't listening. And that takes presence, that takes self-awareness, that takes work to feel the things in the body. But the only reason why we get sick is either we're clearing something, we're purging it, or we're not listening, and we have to tune back in and say, And so your sickness could also be you purging the physicality, right? Because this is dense. What is ascension? Ascension is moving from carbon to crystalline. This is carbon. And as we break that carbon down, known as alchemy, once we break that carbon down and we integrate it, we allow it back, we accept it into our heart, it becomes crystalline. We become lighter, we become more energetic, we become more electric. We're able to manifest things super quick. And so this is the importance of understanding how to do the integration work. Because here's the thing, you can read all the books. That's where I started. I started with book reading. You can take all the courses. You can do all the free things. You can do all the paid things. You can hire a $20,000 coach. If you don't integrate this work, you're just going to keep doing this around the same wounds, the same shadow work over and over and over. When you integrate something, not only are you accepting it into your heart, but you are creating a new action. You have broken the chain and said, oh, instead of going this way, back around the same loop, the same issue, I'm going to go this way. And I'm going to do something different. And I'm going to keep going this way until it becomes automatic, right? Think of this. When you are in a new location and you GPS something, right? You're going to follow GPS and follow GPS and follow GPS. And then one day you're like, oh, I don't need GPS. I know where I'm going. That's what we have to do when we start creating new actions. When we start creating new actions, we create a whole new neural pathway. And I know we're going to kind of go all over the place, but this is a quantum conversation. Quantum means all inclusive. It's all happening at once. So try to follow. If I confuse you or lose you, please ask a question. I will answer them. When we have our neural pathways, think of them as tunnels, freeway tunnels. It takes us to a place to access information stored in a database, right? This is why I always say your ego is always scrolling through, your inner child is always scrolling through the algorithm of your past to predict the future. It feels fear because it's saying, oh, something similar happened 25 years ago. Boop, here it is. When you did that, boom. This happened, this happened, this happened. And when that happened, it felt like this. And so it injects you with all this fear. And you're like, oh my God, holy shit, what do I do? And so now you're worried and you're going through all the things. And what do? You end up manifesting that exact set of circumstances. But if you shift and you realize, oh my God, oh, why am I in fear? There's nothing that's going to hurt me, right? But it knows those tunnels. The minute you stepped into the similar energy, right? The energy is the same, circumstances are different. It accesses a tunnel, which we call a neural pathway, into a database of the algorithm of the past, and it repeats the cycle. And so you may change things a little bit differently, but this is why you go around and around and around the same thing until you become so familiar with it that you're like, oh shit, I'm repeating a pattern. I get it. Sometimes that takes 10 times. Sometimes you can, once you learn these processes, sometimes you can do it in 2. But when we begin the integration work, not only are we no longer triggered because we are coming into a state of acceptance, so there's no more activation of your nervous system into fight, flight, freeze, or people please, as I like to say. When you start that new action, you're starting to build a new neural pathway, and that takes time. In the energy that we are currently in as a collective, it does not take a lot of time anymore, right? Because we are processing thousands of hours of information per hour now. That's the amount of light we are integrating. So we can actually build a full new neural pathway to take us in a complete other direction very easily when we do this work dedicated and we do it very intentionally. And that's what SoulVation is going to do for us. It's going to really help us to build those new neural pathways. Now, don't get it twisted. Those old neural pathways never go anywhere, right? Just because you took the same route to work 10 years, and then one day you decide for the next 10 years you're going to take another route. It doesn't mean the old route is gone. It just means you don't take that way anymore. So it kind of just, the lights kind of go dormant in those neural pathways. And that's what we want. We want them to be dormant. We want the energy to consistently be flowing through the new neural pathways. That's the goal. But there's an interesting study that has said to create a new habit, to create a new neural pathway, to create a new version of yourself with new habits, all of these things, right? New beliefs. It's like 21 days of repetition, right? Or repetition needs to be in the 20s. 20, I don't remember what it was. It was something outrageous. It was like a certain number of repetitions, but it was over 21 days, right? Had to be over 21 days, over 21 repetitions. So being every day for 21 days, repeating these repetitions of the actions. It's not just about speaking the affirmations. It's a whole nother topic. But taking different actions for the new version of you. You have to do it consistently for a certain amount of time. But if you do it through play, if you can do it through play, it will take a quarter of that time. A quarter of that time. So just with this information alone, you guys could put something together and really start to do some embodiment work. But when I was given the quantum embodiment technique, it came from being able to trans-channel. While I don't do it publicly, except I think there's been a few rare occasions I've done it publicly. But when I trans-channel, what I'm able to do is completely allow one of my guides or an ascended master or a galactic, a light being, a different high level being of the highest love and light to enter my body and speak through me. I exit. I literally can watch myself as I channel, but I'll have little to no memory of the channeling itself. And I remember sitting with this, and I was given this technique, and I thought, why can't I use and teach this same method to help people take on old versions of themselves and or integrate new versions of themselves? And so I started testing it. The very first time I tested this, I had an inner child wound that was showing up. And I didn't understand what we are all the main characters of our own story. I did not understand what that version of me, and I'm going to say this inner child was probably around 5, between 5 and 7. Because I don't have any real memories of that time frame, not a lot of memories. And I don't remember, circumstances or events that could have caused things. I was struggling with wrapping my mind around what I needed to do differently and what this version of me needed. What were her needs? How could I make her feel safe? How could I reconcile this information? And so I said, okay, let's try this technique, which we now call the quantum embodiment technique. Let's try this. So I took the words that the guides gave me, and I created this physical method of taking on that version of me. So what that means is I allowed let's just call her 7, my 7-year-old self to take the lead. I still went about my day, because here's the thing, I am a big proponent of this. We work or run businesses, we have children or animals, we have lives. We don't have the time to set aside a few hours a day to do this work. My modalities always are modalities that can be integrated and used in your everyday life, because that's how it should be. You should be able to go use this modality as you move about your everyday life. It's actually going to be more effective that way anyway, because how many people will fall off if they have to stop what they're doing and spend an hour doing something like that? They're not going to do it. They'll say, oh, I'll do it later. And then they're not in the energy to do it. They're not in that healing window. Because there's a space, a small window when you're triggered that you can actually integrate it very quickly. So I allowed my 7-year-old to take over my body, basically. And this particular case was extreme because it was extreme trauma that had happened. And it was my very first time testing it out. So it took me about 2.5 days. And it was intense. I knew what was coming. It was over the weekend. I told people, don't call me, don't come to my house. Like, I'm just going to be by myself for a couple of days. And I just witnessed the stories that this inner child had in her head. I witnessed my behavior, how I wanted to dress, how I wanted to walk, how I wanted to talk, how I wanted to tantrum, the thoughts I was having, the feelings I was having. I was able to recognize this is not the normal me. And it was very, very eye-opening. So eye-opening that I knew exactly what I needed to do for her, what I needed to allow her to express, to give her a voice through my body. And the healthiest person on the planet has 22 aspects of self, 22 fragments. And anytime you've had any type of trauma, not necessarily big T trauma, but when you've had a trauma that's occurred that's significant enough to affect you, it fragments an aspect of your soul. It fragments a part of you. And this is why healing is so challenging, because it feels like we're trying to put these pieces, puzzle pieces, back together, and sometimes we don't know where they fit or how it works. This was the missing piece for me. So I was able to understand her. I was able to let her have that expression. I was able to have compassion for what I was feeling, what I was going through. And it was an intense couple of days. I learned a lot as the trial and error of this method. I lost weight in those 2 days. Everything shifted. I had a huge influx of money afterwards. I had a huge influx of just abundance in life, right? Good things happening because I cleared and made so much space. And then I took the knowing of what I had to, how I needed to operate differently and applied it moving forward. And that's another thing that we're going to do in here. So let me just go over all the things that are covered because the modules are already going to be there, but we're going to have live community calls. And I'm actually going to be adding 2 modules. So right now there's 6 modules. I believe there's 6 modules. Yes, because it's 12. It was originally a 12-week program. We had a module week, and then we had a live community call week. So now it's going to go to 8. So right now we have, the first thing we do is we give you an intro into parts work, and then I teach you the quantum embodiment technique. You get all the PDFs as soon as you enroll. You get all the documents, all the meditations, all the things. We're going to spend some time learning that. And the very first thing we do, because this has got to be fun, right? The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to start to learn how to take on your grander self, or you could say your higher self. Hi, Tanya. And so we want to take that on because we want you to feel the difference between your everyday awareness of how you normally operate and feel and taking on an aspect of self that we're going to say is a higher frequency, something that's going to make you feel lighter and more blissed out and more empowered. So we always start with that because we want you to understand how this technique allows you to access your multidimensionality. It allows you to go, oh, let me try this identity on. Let me try this identity on. Let me try this version of me on and see what it does, right? Or if you have a version of yourself, like I talked about with my 7-year-old, and you're having trouble integrating the wounds of that 7-year-old, you can take that aspect of you on and have more understanding and allow yourself to integrate that more quickly. Then we're going to go into energy management, which is something that I do extensively in the energy matrix. If that individually calls to you, but I give you enough understanding in the energy management section, because here's the thing. Like I know I sound like a broken record, but it should be taught in schools, how to manage your energy, how to discern between what's your energy and what's someone else's. Because the more the frequency increases on the planet, the more sensitive we all become. So we're all eventually going to be highly sensitive people. And energetic boundaries is just not something anybody really teaches. But the energy management is understanding energy, energetic boundaries. And it's super, super important because if you can't discern, you're really going to have a hard time navigating anything in life. Then we go into actual boundaries, right? Which is your sense of self. It is your definition of self. It is your container. It's what makes you different from everyone else. And so our boundaries are the things you will do and you won't do, the things you tolerate and you won't tolerate, the things you like and the things you don't like. You're very defined in your values of what you value and your virtues, which is your essence, right? And so every time you go through an ego death or an inner child integration, anytime you go through a major up-leveling, your boundaries are going to be burst open because they no longer apply to you because that version of you is gone. It's integrated. You have become a new version of you. And so when I talked about like creating that new neural pathway and setting out the repetition of doing the new behaviors for the new version of yourself that's going to be uncomfortable, this is where we establish that in the boundaries, right? So there's so much more that I've learned just since I ran this, that I've learned by myself in my doing this work, because I constantly do my own work, that I'm going to be adding to this on the boundaries. So I'm going to be adding some stuff into that. I'll probably have an extended community call on that one and just clip it out so that will be kind of an add-on module. Then we go into the purification process. The purification process, something I just went over again. I see you, I hear you, I feel you. I love you anyway. I take this into a different level in SoulVation. I take the purification process into a different level. This is really what's going to help you with alchemy and really being able to move through a trigger quickly. Because when you are triggered, that is the greatest gift of all. It sucks. I mean, there's times where triggers still get to me. But that's when you do the work. If you put your, like, oh, I'll deal with this in 2 hours, that energy is not at the door of your heart anymore. Remember, when it's the strongest energy, the strongest discomfort, the strongest pain, the strongest hurt, that's when it's literally at your door. Let me in, love me as I am, accept me as I am, have compassion for me. If we could all just do that one simple thing, you would integrate so much faster. That's the first step of integration, is acceptance. Accepting it in, allowing it to be what it is without judgment. Then to finish and complete the integration into wisdom, you have to change your behavior. You have to be the change, okay? Then we go into surrender. Surrender is acceptance. It is the art of letting go of control, releasing resistance. Inside of this, we also talk about something that the guides channeled in one of the sessions known as inversion hacking. Inversion hacking, when you live in a dualistic plane like we do, everything is a mirror. And so when you understand how things are inverted, and you understand how to utilize that to your benefit, it becomes a lot easier to get out of the mud, right? So when you're in a trigger, when you're in something that feels uncomfortable, hi, Meredith, you're in the mud. You're in it. And when you're in it, you often can't see outside of it, right? So when we teach inversion hacking, you start to be able to see it from an external perspective. It allows you that little tiny piece, a little tiny bit of space to go, whoa, okay, let me get out of it. Let me get out of the mud. Let me see this other side. So that was a really awesome thing that came through right before. It's actually after I launched it, I had an ayahuasca ceremony. There was like 3 weeks before my ayahuasca ceremony where I started getting these downloads on inversion hacking. And then I went and did my ayahuasca and experienced it tangibly. Thank you. That was an interesting little experience. And I got a different perspective, and it came in just the perfect time because we were just starting this course. And the other things we're going to go into is presence, how to be present, how to bring yourself back to the present moment, how to hold space. And let me just tell you, people don't understand what it means to hold space. When you hold space for yourself or for someone else, you're not fixing it. You're not trying to fix it. You're not trying to give advice. You're literally walking into someone else's, like if you're holding space for someone else, you're walking into their dark. You're walking into their darkness. You're sitting your butt down next to them and saying, guess what? However long it takes, I'm going to sit here with you. I can't fix you. I can just have compassion and say you're not alone. And when you do that for somebody, what you're doing is allowing them to feel the safety of somebody there so that they can break. Because when we're that worked up, the energy has to break for us to see all the pieces on the floor. That's why you hear that saying, like, you got to break down to break through. It's not really about breaking down. It's just about breaking the energy down. And that's what we need to do. And so when you're holding space for yourself, again, you're not fixing. You're not judging what you're going through as wrong or uncomfortable or, anything. You're not complaining. You're not judging. You're not comparing. Those three things is what holds a belief together. That's it. You know what? That's what holds a belief together. Judgment, comparison, complaining. That's what holds a belief together. Which all of it really is a judgment anyway, right? It's all really a judgment. So that's an important piece to understand. So when you hold space for yourself, you're not judging yourself. You're going, okay, you're using the purification process. I see what's happening. I see that I am triggered right now. I see that I am angry. I see that I am sad, whatever it is. I see that I am spiraling. I see that I'm getting caught up in this. By calling it out, you take away 50% of the energy right away. Right away. You just take it away. 50% of the energy gone. Just by you going, ha, I know what the fuck is going on. I am in resistance. I am in fear. I do not want to feel this. I do not want this to happen. I'm judging it. I hear you. What is the story in your head? Because it's just a story. What's the story in your head? What's the story telling you? We are 100% responsible for the stories we keep alive in our mind. So what's the story? Listen, observe. Don't believe it. Go, ooh, like I had one yesterday. I was doing the dishes, and I have a date tonight, and most of my triggers and wounds come from my romantic life, because that's between my husbands and my parents, the people who love me hurt me the most, right? So that's where all of anything unhealed in me shows up. So I'm doing the dishes, and this wild story pops in, and I was like just listening to it and observing it, and I wasn't reacting. I was just like, whoa, that's a crazy story. And then, you know what I said to myself? Well, thanks for sharing the story. Here's how my story would go. And I changed the narrative, right? I changed it. But all while creating safety for myself. I wasn't judging the wild, scary story that my ego was trying to feed me. I wasn't triggered by it. I was just observing it. So you recognize what was happening. You started listening to the story, right? I see you. I hear you. I am safe. I am safe. It is safe to feel this. It is safe to observe this. I am safe right now. There's no lion or tiger or something coming to try to eat me. I am not in danger. It is safe to feel, right? Because if you take the E off of emotion, it's just motion. So when you feel heavy emotions, you could be like, woo, woo, we're moving. We're moving some stuff. We're in motion. Things are moving. That is important to recognize. Even if it's uncomfortable. Take the E off emotion. You are moving. Energy's moving. And I love you anyway is loving yourself no matter what the fuck you're feeling or going through. Doesn't matter. You could be homeless on the street and you're going to love yourself through it. You could have millions of dollars, you're going to love yourself through it. You could be sick, love yourself through it. You could be angry and wanting to take a bat or throat punch someone, you're going to love yourself anyway. Why? Shouldn't you be the one person who loves you regardless? Shouldn't you be the one voice of reason? Shouldn't you be the one who doesn't judge you? Shouldn't you be the one who loves you the most? And the reason why you're not is because you were taught. You were taught and programmed as a child. And a lot of it happened in the first 7 years, which is your root programming, and you don't even really know what the hell was programmed. And that's the trauma that gets stuck in our bodies. And when you are up in your head, the thoughts that come up in your head repetitively are alarms for what's trapped unconsciously in the body. And when you're not listening to this to fix this, then this gets sick or broken so that you have no choice but to listen. And we don't want that. Trust me, you don't want that. I've had that. So I teach you all of these things all together in a very smooth way because the whole point is for us to jump. So what is a quantum jump? A quantum jump is when you decide to become a different version of yourselves. And in order to do that, one, you have to embody your limits. You have to embody the aspects of yourself that held the limits. And this is going to sound like a lot, but once you enter the program, you're going to see it's actually quite easy. So you got to embody the parts of the self that are holding you back, that are keeping you from moving forward. You got to learn the alchemy process for processing what comes up while doing that. That is an important part. And then you have to become really aware of, okay, the version of me that I want, I need to make sure I'm very clear on what her or his boundaries are. Meaning, again, what you value, what you're made of, your essence, those are your virtues. The things you will no longer tolerate that maybe you did before. The things that the way that you want to behave that's different than the way before. And understanding how to do that in a way that doesn't set yourself up for failure. Like, don't be that person that's like, starting Monday, I'm going to go on a diet. I'm going to work out. I'm going to get up early. I'm going to meditate and journal, and I'm going to start eating clean. And those 6 things are things I've never done, and I'm going to do them all at once. That is a disaster. That is a recipe for disaster. You have to learn how to stack. You have to learn how to start small. You got to learn how to lean on people. And that's the other thing about this live experience that was really transformational for the students that took it. I have 2 levels of support in this live experience. So I use an app called Marco Polo, and that app will only be used, it's a group video chat, right? So you record. If you never used Marco Polo, you look like you're recording yourself, and it goes to a group of people that are in the program. And we use the Marco Polo for holding space. So you're going to learn how to hold space for yourself, but then we're going to hold space for you. And the reason why this was important for me is it teaches vulnerability. You are in a container with people who are all doing the same thing, all wanting the same thing, all having vulnerable aspects. There's no safer place to be vulnerable and to learn how to open up and be vulnerable, which is actually what strength truly is, in there. So nobody answers back, nobody fixes you. You come in there and you say what it is that you need to say, or you need a safe place to say it. Shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces. Shame is healed when stories are told in safe spaces. We have to create the safe space. So we have Marco Polo for that, where we can see you, where we can send you love, where we can hear you, where we can be there for you without fixing you or judging you. Then the second level of support is a WhatsApp group chat. Say that 10 times fast. And that's where you can ask questions. You're like, hey, I'm struggling. I need a hand up. This is what I'm struggling with. And these things aren't working for me. Can we tweak them for me? Or you can give a success story or whatever it is. It's a place to ask questions, to get support from me and from the community. It's important that you have these, but they are group lifelines. They are not individual. And the coolest part about this, so for those who join, you're going to get our first community call. I think it's not going to be until the 29th or the 1st. It's a Thursday. We're going to do it like 6 p.m. Pacific. So it'll be 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. It'll be the same day, same time every week. And if that time does, if the people join and they're like, hey, this is not a good time, we have a consensus of a new time, we'll cross that bridge. But right now, it's going to be Thursdays, 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. But in the group, I got on a sidetrack. Hold on, let me bring back that stream of consciousness. Where I was at. I don't know what I was talking about. Happens sometimes. So we're going to have our call, and then we will have a group call. On the group call, it is a group coaching session. So we're going to review the homework, and we're going to talk about things that are working, aren't working, custom tailor things for you. Everyone's going to get an opportunity to talk. But in this PDF guide, I'm going to be creating this PDF guide that's going to be super beneficial. So this PDF guide that you guys are going to get, this is why I had to kind of push out the first call. That's where I was, thank you. That's where I was going. I need a little time. So I create this, it's like 10 or 11 pages. Each one gets a personalized PDF guide. And it's based upon your gene keys, your human design, and astrology. And what we're going to do is we're going to outline your core wound. In case you don't know what it is, this is your blueprinted core wound, the thing that you said, this is the root of everything. We have one core wound, and then that becomes the root, right? And the tree trunk comes up, and then we start branching out where we have other wounds that are collectively a part of this one core wound. So we're going to outline what that core wound is. We're going to outline the foods and the supplements that help to repair the exact DNA that is tied to that wound. I mean, this is where we're going to get into epigenetics. We're going to get into like quantum physics. So I'm able to identify the amino acids that are attached to those core wounds and to tell you the supplements and the foods that will help to repair the DNA that goes to that wound. Isn't that crazy? So we're going to be able to put all of that in this document. We're also going to be touching on your Pluto, which is your transformer. Pluto are the intense things that happen that give you an opportunity to go through that Phoenix rebirth. We're going to be talking about your Chiron, which is which is one of your, it's another level of your core wound, right? It's an aspect of it, a big piece of it. We call it the wounded healer. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to be talking about your North Node, which is your destiny. So we're going to bring in that piece so you can get an idea of what you're destined to, the direction you're destined to go in. And again, you're going to get all of the things to help you understand that wound, understand how to process that wound, the foods, amino acids that are going to help to repair the DNA that hold those wounds. It's a very questions that you can ask yourself. It is one of that in itself is worth ridiculous amounts of money, but it takes me about 5 hours a person to design and channel and input from all the programs I use that information so that you guys can have this big document. And you're going to use that document throughout the entire course. So before we go any further, does anybody have any questions about quantum embodiment, quantum jumping? Because this is the fastest way that I have found to move through, to get to that next level of where I want to be. And with everything going on in the world, the things that you're going to utilize the most moving forward is energy management, trusting yourself. Seriously. We are coming into super uncertain times. It's just going to get more uncertain. And as someone who's just spent the last 17 months living in uncertainty, it's not done yet, but living in uncertainty and learning to live on faith, I can tell you, it's one of the greatest gifts you will ever give yourself. Because you may not know what's going to happen next, but you trust that when whatever happens, you will figure it out. You will either know how to navigate it once it happens, or you will know who to ask. It will be there. So energy management, that's where you learn to read, discern, and manage your own energy and trusting yourself in uncertain times. Those two things right there are the greatest gifts you can ever give yourselves, and how to embody the tools to navigate this energy, to navigate the things that come up, to help you integrate and go to that next level. So that is the thing that you're going to need the most. This is the best. Those are the things, whether you do it through me or through someone else, that is the best investment you can make on yourself. I always blind in astral travel, so weird. I only can smell, feel, and hear. That's okay. You don't have to necessarily see. And that's the other thing. You know, in the last time we ran, I had one of the girls, she doesn't see. She doesn't see like how I see or how other people would see. So this is why it's so helpful to have the live aspect component of this, because you get the help of how to understand what you're experiencing and using your other senses. And this is different from astral traveling or, or any astral projecting. We're not doing that. We're bringing everything into the body. Even when I do Akashic Records readings or when I do Akashic Record meditations, all of that, you're not astral traveling. You're not going anywhere to get your own records. They're in your field. So I take you into your heart and we open everything up in the heart space so you don't ever leave your body. And that's a misconception. People think, oh, if you're reading the records or if you're meditating or whatever, you're astral traveling. Not necessarily. I have learned and been shown how to stay in my body and how to access it all just by being in my heart. And that is magic right there. It is straight up magic. Okay, so I'm going to open up to questions. Does anybody have any questions about parts work, embodiment work, triggers, any of this, quantum jumping? Now is your time to ask, and I will answer as best I can. Or if you have any questions about the program. Again, this program, you will automatically get all of the content immediately when you enroll. You can start with the preview, the starting video, and you can go into module 1. But we're not going to have our first community call until, let me look at the calendar to give you guys an exact date. It's going to be a Thursday, so it'll be the 31st, August 31st, and it will be at 6 Pacific, 9 Eastern. That usually helps people who are working. But again, if we get a bunch of international people, which sometimes I tend to attract a lot of internationals, it can be adjusted. So, and the calls are recorded. And the community calls every other week will go for 2 hours, up to 2 hours. So if we cover it in an hour, great. Oh, yes, good point. So the other cool thing about this is every time I run this live, if you were a previous student, you will be able to come back for free. It's 111, make a wish. You will be able to come back and take the program again and again and again and get all the updates until I stop running it live, okay? So if you were in the first one, you will get to go in the second one. If you're coming the second one and I run it next year or in 6 months from now, whenever I have the next biggest update, you'll get to go through it again if you so choose. You don't have to, but you'll always get all the updates. So that's kind of a cool thing. So it will be a living experience that you will continue to be able to grow with until you no longer need it, you know? So I'm excited. This is one of my favorite programs. So I talked about I'm adding 2 new modules. So we're going to have a whole module on identity. I've had, over the last couple of weeks, I've had some new downloads come in on crafting identities and learning to play in that energy, which has been pretty transformational for me just since I started it, and I haven't been doing it for very long. But I really feel called that by the time we get to that module, it will be well practiced for me. But those were all coming in for a couple of weeks, and it was just last week that it all kind of came together, and I was like, oh, light bulb, I got it, I understand now. And then the other thing that we're going to do is this was something that I did with a private mentor student who also took SoulVation the first round, but we went into using the quantum embodiment technique to take on one of her galactic guides. So whether it's a higher dimensional being, what I'm going to be able to do is tune in and see what guide of yours, because the guides that you're born with, right? The guides that you come in with that are your core guides, they are versions of you in different realities. They're you. So you can tune in, or I can help you tune in to, let's just say, for her, it was her mantis. She has a guide that was her, that was, I think it was a 12th dimensional mantis. And we had her use the QET method to take on that energy. And what happened was she started to integrate that energy. She integrated the gifts and the abilities of that aspect of herself. And she is now out there just shining bright and sharing these gifts with the world. And it was because she used the QET, the quantum embodiment technique, to take on that version of herself and start to feel what it felt like to have that energy in her, let that energy lead, and these gifts and insights that came through. So it's quite magical. And then I had another student who did this as well with an aspect of herself, and it really boosted her confidence. It really boosted the way that she moved in the world, the way that she interacted with people. And again, I've not had anyone come from this experience that had less than life-changing results. So I'm excited. So those are the 2 new modules we'll be adding on. I need to put them actually on the sales page. I didn't, but it will be exploring and crafting your new identity and how to do that, because you're going to change who you are changes throughout the years, but you're never the same person. And then integrating, embodying that, we're going to call it a higher dimensional aspect of you, not only for you to get those gifts, but for you to be able to start embodying and holding a higher frequency. Because the longer you can hold the higher frequency, the more you will be able to manifest in this reality. So here's the example that I'm going to give you. If everything that you are desiring that you want in your new life, if you want, you want to make $300,000 a year, you want a certain house, you want a certain relationship, you want a certain car, you want a certain business, all of those things reside in a frequency. That's what dimensions are, right? They're levels of frequency. So let's say they're all on the 10th floor, but you live on the 4th floor. That's a problem. You can meditate and you can go up to the 10th floor. You can get off, you can hang out there for an hour, maybe two throughout the day. Maybe you've been really working on yourself and you can sit there for 3 hours, but you can't sustain it. You can't live there all day and all night. You can't sustain it. So this is why manifesting is a $1 billion industry. Why? Because it's short term. It gives you that dopamine high of, oh, I got a little bit. And then you go back down. And then you do all these things and you're up there and you get a little bit more. And then you go back down. You just keep doing this. You have to be able to sustain the frequency of the things that you are desiring. So you have to be able to unpack and live in the 10th floor, whatever that frequency is. So the more that we can train you, that's going to drive me nuts. I don't know if you guys can hear the horn. The more we can train, you can train your body and your energy to hold a higher frequency for longer periods of time and eventually sustain it. Things will manifest more instantaneous and you will be able to hold on to them. And it won't be this yo-yo effect constantly, right? You're jumping floors because you're like, oh, now I can hold it. Now I can hold it. So that's the importance, right? And that's why people have had such transformation with this, because they were able to hold and sustain higher frequencies. And that's what we're going to be doing in this. So that's what SoulVation is. I've never done anything like this. Again, this is spirit-led, so any additional modules, I'm not going to really be able to outline. I just know the themes of those, and then it will all be channeled. You're not healing to find. You're not healing limiting beliefs. You're not healing all of these core wounds for anything other than to be able to experience joy. And I know that sounds weird to say, but you're healing these things so that you can live more in a state of joy, in a state of peace. That's why you're healing them, because unhealed wounds keep you from experiencing joy, keep you from experiencing pleasure. Because most people are actually afraid of joy and pleasure. Why? Because they're used to the discomfort. They're used to the fear. They're used to those things. Okay, last call on questions about, again, parts work, quantum jumping, quantum embodiment in general, integrations, triggers, any of those things. Now is your opportunity to get help from me. Which aspect of life or wound triggers fibromyalgia, and also am I also living in uncertainty? Well, which aspect of life or wound triggers? So fibromyalgia is an inflammation, right? So it is an inflammation. I almost see it as, this is weird, this is what I'm hearing, inflamed nerves. So to me, it says there's too much action being taken while in a state of a triggered nervous system. So again, fight, flight, freeze, people please. And a lot of people live in a functional freeze. This is when you get stuck scrolling. This is when you're channel surfing. This is when you're trying to rest, but you're in complete avoidance of resting and you're just trying to distract yourself. It is a state of functional freeze. So which aspect of your life or wounds triggers that? I'm going to say that there's an inner child who probably experienced some type of uncertainty and of needs that they needed to have met. And again, this doesn't have to be in a bad childhood or you were starved or anything like that. Whatever your needs were as a child that were in a state of uncertainty of when they were going to be met. It can also be an uncertainty of a parent who was erratic, had emotional, didn't know how to manage their emotions. So there was some type of uncertainty that kept you in a heightened nervous system state. And so there's certain questions you will be able to ask yourself, and through that PDF guide, I would be able to go in really deep for that. But right now, just off the cuff, I would really, and that's one of the things we do in this is we kind of do a tracking. So you're able to find the patterns and the river that runs through things. But I would ask yourself, like, when do I remember as a child things being uncertain? Or what was the thing that I was always afraid of happening? Or what was the theme? What happened continuously that you remember? And if you even remember. And regardless of that, when anything comes up for you that is uncertain, it's about using that purification process, right? Recognizing, I see you. I see that my nervous system is activated. I'm feeling a little anxious or nervous or uncertain about some things. Okay, what's the story? I hear you. What's the story in my head? What's the story in my head? I don't have to believe it. I don't have to buy it. I just have to observe it. What is my mind telling me? And then I give you guys a list of questions to ask yourself. For example, how you can ask yourself in that moment, how old am I? How old am I? Where do I feel this energy? Obviously, you have your head's reeling, right? But you are safe to feel this. So I am safe. Let me explore my body. Let me find the sensations. Where is this stored? When this happens, do I feel stiffness in my body? Do I have swelling? What are the physical sensations and ailments that kind of accompany these triggers? I would start there. When you get triggered in this, I would ask yourself, how old am I? That's where I would start for you. And that's going to give you the aspect of self. That's going to give you a little bit more tangible idea of the version of you that's doing that. And then from there, it's really about being in the moment. Really about being in the moment. I also feel for you, there is some tangible life choices that will help to heal your fibromyalgia. Things that you can do, part of energy management, body management, right? Health management, that you can do to really help you. Because I feel like for you in particular, yes, this energetic wound is the root of the fibromyalgia, but with anything, it's mind, body, soul, right? So sometimes we have to do some physical, external things once something is manifested, right? And this is where these understanding what amino acids, what foods, what particular things are going to be super helpful for you. The uncertainty, I can't speak about it enough. This has been the wildest ride for me, living in uncertainty. And for those who are new and have not been watching my journey, like, I don't have a permanent residence. I house sit. I have been through 22 states. And there are times when I don't have a house sit, where I've had to car camp, or get an Airbnb or a hotel, or stay with friends in between, where I have broken down or had tire issues, where I've had money issues, where I've had internet issues when I had clients I needed to get, to work with. I have faced it all of the primal fears, right? Food, money, heat, all of those primal fears, they have been activated. But I've been doing this on my own since, we're in 17 months now. I have been doing this. And it is really scary at times and really exciting at times, right? That's energy, excitement, and fear are the same sword. It's just a different side of the same sword. So I've had to learn a lot just to be able to navigate that. And that's why I can completely say where we are headed, just from the collective guidance that I've received from the guides, where we are headed is going to be very scary for a lot of people. It's not meant to scare you. We're going to be okay. But whenever time we have these big collective shifts where everybody is experiencing similar uncertainty, people get even more scared because they're like, well, it's not just me, right? The whole world's like this, or the whole United States, or my whole state, or my whole city. If we're all in this, what are we going to do? It's learning how to navigate uncertainty. It's learning how to surrender to that energy. It's learning how to go, you know what? I don't know what's next, but let me live in the mystery. Let me live in the adventure. Let me remind myself that I'm standing here right now, which means I have survived and made it through all of the uncertainty I had before. And I can trust myself that when the time comes, I'm going to know what to do, or I'm going to be able to ask for help to figure it out. And once you begin to really live that way, it takes a lot to shake you. It takes a lot to shake you. For me, it takes a lot to bring me down. And normally it doesn't bring me down. It brings it to a head, and then I break it down and move through it. Because I'm not any different than you guys. And I teach you guys the things that have changed my life. And I only teach the things that worked. And the things that I have tried, not just on me, but I have worked with other clients on and seen success with. Because if it doesn't help me, hell, I ain't going to teach it to you. But that was a really good question. Thank you for asking that. Like for me, so I used to have chronic migraines. I used to have chronic lower back pain. I had an autoimmune disorder. I've had stage 3 adrenal fatigue. I've learned to heal it all. Heal it all. And the adrenal fatigue caused thyroid problems. It caused all kinds of other problems. I was able to drop about 70 pounds. I have changed my life completely through these processes. Thank you. That helps a lot because I'm going through the same as you. And I do channel the Pleiadians here and there. Awesome. Work with the Pleiadians. You know what? I'm so glad you said that. So back in the day when the Pleiadians were the main set of guides I was working with. So for quite a long time, I was working with a collective that was made up of 9th dimensional Pleiadians, and they were the main people I was channeling for a few years. And I channeled all of these, and you're on my YouTube, so I think it might be on YouTube. I'll have to, if I can look and find it, I'll drop a link on your comment. I think it's a free one. It might be a paid one, but I think it's a free one. Anyway, the Pleiadians used to speak through me these healing transmissions where you can put yourself in these healing pods and like command work be done on your body and healing happen to you when you're sleeping. So at the very least, if I can't find that on my YouTube channel, and you can look too. So in the playlists, it'll be under healing transmissions. If you channel or do channel the Pleiadians, when you lay down at night, just create a command strip that commands the Pleiadian emissaries of light to encompass you in a healing pod, to heal X, Y, and Z, and to bring any clarity about any physical changes in your everyday reality. Take my words if you want. They just came out of my mouth for you. And do that for 30 days straight. Say that invocation as you're falling asleep or right before you fall asleep. What I did was I put mine on an index card. I read it to myself before I went to sleep, and I stuck it into my pillow. And I had a lot of help just in that way. So if you're already working with the Pleiadians, that's what I would do that, and that would be helpful alone for you with healing some of this stuff. So definitely I would recommend that. Sandy, I felt such a high of love. Is that what you mean? Thinking of my past grandparents. So when you were thinking of them, in the last 4 minutes, when you're thinking of your grandparents and you felt that high of love, if I think that's what you're saying. One of the ways that a lot of mediums, so when I teach mediumship, one of the things that I focus on is opening up the heart. And so opening up the heart says, find something that makes you feel so much joy or so much love. And usually I use puppies or bunnies or something that's animal related. But it can be grandparents, it can be anything. But when you are thinking of somebody or something and you feel that high frequency of love, that's such a beautiful thing. And that is a great tool for you too, because that means that at any time when you're having a rough day or you're struggling with stress, you can really quickly change your frequency by going, oh, let me access a memory of me with my grandparents, or let me access a memory of me playing with these puppies, or whatever the case may be, and allow yourself to move into that higher frequency of love. And it does feel like such a high. I thought of the love I have for my grandparents. That's just so beautiful, Sandy. I loved my grandma too. I love that. And I thank you for saying that, because anybody can use that tip too. So if you are feeling fear or stress and you can recall a memory of something that opens your heart and makes you feel love, makes you feel that high of love, at the very minimum, it's going to help you shift. Now, I don't say to use that to bypass. You still need to feel your other feelings, right? But it is a great technique. And even if you're not struggling and you're just sitting around or you're driving, when you focus on those feelings, it doesn't matter that it's about your grandparents. It doesn't matter if it's about an animal. The whole point, as we were talking about earlier, right, about sustaining a level of love, sustaining a frequency, just think about them more. Think about those things. Like even this would be a great exercise for anybody to do, like make a top 3 or 5 hit list of things that just make your heart explode. Like for me, it's my dog Cookie. She's back in North Carolina with my kids, and I'm going back next month to see them. And when this dog, I don't know what it is about her, just thinking about her, my heart burst open. She is a Great Dane. She's a Dane Bull, so she's a mix of bull, pit bull, and Great Dane. And she is adorable. She's got these gorgeous blue eyes. She just wiggles her butt and she gets so excited, and it just makes my heart burst wide open. And so it's making a hit list of like this top 3 or 5 things that rupture your heart wide open, that kind of put you in that frequency. And if you can kind of shuffle those throughout your day, and when new ones come up, add them in, it's really going to help you to start embodying and holding a higher frequency. So that is a really good thing that you opened up for everybody. So thank you, Sandy. Any other questions? Oh, okay. So something that the guides just popped in for a reminder. 48-hour fast action bonus, as I mentioned. So if you enroll in the next 48 hours, it doesn't matter if you're full pay or payment plan. It's regardless of that choice. You will get 2 90-minute quantum soul sessions with me. You can use them right away. You can use them throughout the program. They will have to be used this year, though. That is the caveat. They will not be transferred to next year. That's a $660 value. As soon as I see those people who have enrolled, I will reach out to you via email and drop you a link where you will have access to a prepaid calendar where you can book your sessions at your will whenever you're ready. And those sessions are recorded too. So, and then everybody will get their PDF guides. It will take me probably until the end of next week to get everybody's guides done. These are the 11-page guides that tell you about your amino acids, what heals and repairs your DNA, your core wounding, how to navigate it, how to use it to your benefit, where you're going, right? This is the direction of your life moving forward, that north node. So all of those things will be in that guide that you will have forever. And so all of that will happen within the first week of enrollment, okay? So if we don't have any other questions, we're gonna wrap this up. But I thank you guys for hopping on. I hope that the information I shared today was helpful in general to anybody who needed it. We can all use that support. And if you're on TikTok or Facebook or anywhere, honestly, I have on YouTube, if you go to my YouTube channel, I have lots of free masterclasses. Just go to my page and you'll see I have set playlists for you guys. I have a ton of healing transmissions that will not just help your body heal, but also they're just transformational. So there's a lot of free content on YouTube. So I want to be able to help everybody. And so I have resources from free to private mentorship, right? And everything in between. So I like to come on here and do these talks when I'm launching something, because it gives me an opportunity to help people who may not even be taking the program, you know? That's why I ask you guys, if you want questions, now's the time to ask them. So this will be the final call on any questions. But just know that any of the fast action bonus people, I will reach out to you within that 48 hours and give you a link to get on my calendar whenever you feel called. You can, like I said, you can use them throughout. And every year that I run this program live, you will be welcomed back in, and you can take it again, or you can just access the new content once it's made. So that is something that will live on with you guys. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining. I am so excited. You guys, seriously, this program is awesome. I'm so excited for anybody who joins, and I'm kind of giddy because I get excited and creative, and I like having a little community where we can talk and get close and just be there to support each other, and listen to other people's stories because this is what happened last time. People would hold space, and then we'd come on the thing and be like, oh my God, when you were telling your story, like it totally resonated with me and I totally felt it and I didn't feel alone anymore and I didn't realize. Or they'll tell their story of how they moved out of something on the community call, and someone will be like, oh my God, I never thought of it that way, right? So coming together, and I find that the people that end up showing up for these courses, it's like divinely orchestrated. It's so beautiful because they'll all be healing similar themes. And it's like a perfect little package that comes together, and everybody's kind of in the same little boat. And by the time they leave, they're friends, and they have they've done such, I have no words for when I run a live program. It's just magic. It's just magic. And it's not me, I'm facilitating it. And you guys all bring in your own magic and add to it. And it just makes things so spectacular. So anyway, I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining. I hope it helped. If anybody's watching the replay and you want a question, just put #replay and drop your question. I will do my best to answer it if I can in the comments section. And I am looking forward to seeing who joins. Bye for now.